All right. So this is what I can do because the state is opposed to your application for deferred adjudication. I can reset this in a couple of weeks. You can bring whatever witnesses you want to bring. The state will give me his criminal history and we can go from there. And then I'll make a decision on whether or not deferred or.
Do you want to do that or do you want just probation from the bench today?
I just want probation. I want to get this over with now.
So here's the thing. People say they want to get things over with, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And they don't think about the consequences of their actions. What I'm telling you is your attorney has applied for deferred adjudication. Not getting this over with right now, maybe I'll give you deferred adjudication and you won't have a felony conviction. But if you want to get this over right now, then what's going to end up happening is you're going to have a felony conviction, and that felony conviction is going to follow you wherever you go like a ball and chain. And it's going to affect your ability to get employment if that's what you're intending to do. But if you want to go for it, I'll go for it. You'll be found guilty and you'll receive your regular probation, and it's going to be a conviction on your record.
Which way do you want to go?
How old are you?
31, ma'am.
31. You don't need to look at your attorney to make a decision. Do you want to be a felon?
No, ma'am. I don't want. I'm a driver.
He's a truck driver, Your Honor, so it will affect his livelihood down the road. However, I told him that it may or may not, who knows, 6 years down the road under this administration, will there be truck drivers. But be that as it may, you have a choice today.
I just want to take the probation, ma'am.
We can go off the record. Do you understand what you're saying to me? You're saying to me that you want a felony conviction. And what I'm telling you is, according to your plea bargain agreement, if I give you a felony conviction and you mess up on it, you're looking at 10 years in the prison. If you end up with deferred adjudication, you don't have a felony conviction. And if you mess up on it, you're looking at 10 years prison. So you're telling the court that you want to take the easy way out and get a conviction on your record. So you can be the felon. Felon Wade. Is that what you want?
No, ma'am.
So why do you need to look at your attorney to make a determination on whether or not you want to come back in 2 weeks? Because maybe in 2 weeks, maybe I'll give you deferred adjudication. Maybe your attorney is going to present something to me that will tell me that you're deserving of deferred adjudication. Maybe the state is going to come back to me and say, this is the only thing he has. He doesn't have any other criminal history. So what do you want to do?
What should you do? Ma'am, I don't know the land of the law. I'm just here.
I'm going to help you out. We're coming back in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a lot of thoughts on that. I think of all the pathetic, weak Negroes, white folk, Hispanics, and other stuff. I didn't want to get it over with. Now you got a felony conviction, you damn fool. Why didn't you go to trial on this? Why didn't you take a stand on it? Why didn't you pursue your remedies? I just want to get it over with. I was scared. Well, you punked out. What do you want me to do about it at this late remove? I dealt with that so often. And then the context is, the bigger context, we get to talking about the injustice, and that's the title of what we do, Injustice for All, the injustice of the criminal justice system and how it's so wrong against black folk or Negroes that people want to foolishly call themselves now. The problem is that 97+% of the people in the American penal system pled guilty. Just a little more than 2% got found guilty. So this overwhelming 9.7, 97 out of every 100 that are in the penitentiary put themselves there, not only by the initial conduct, but because they got scared or wanted to get it over with. And that's supposed to equate it to injustice. That's what I was talking about earlier when I started talking about mindset and how you look at stuff. That was so preposterous. I like what the judge did. I would have been a little bit more direct about it and said, no, the court's not taking any action today because it does not want to get into post-conviction relief at a later point, alleging ineffective assistance of counsel. Now, and I don't like the way this lawyer was talking either. Sometimes if you're a good lawyer, you sort of beat your client across the head. So what's the matter with you, fool? What are you trying to do? No, we're not going to do that. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. You aren't that damn lazy, and what you're doing isn't that important in the scheme of things. You got yourself a felony. You just entered a plea of guilty and accepted the charge. So that's not even the question. Now you want to talk about you went and behaved like a felon, did some wrong to general society. Somebody was a victim. And then you talk about you don't have 2 weeks to come back and see to it so maybe you can get your behind off of the fire. That is crazy.
I don't think his lawyer explained it to him, his
I
option.
don't know what the hell he did, but I did not like what I was hearing from the defense position. And it sounds like too much of what I've heard and seen and observed too often over the years. More and more now, somebody's got a slick ad campaign and people come to the individual and the individual has no damn experience in the practice of criminal law because they have never gone to or seldom gone to trial. That's like having a doctor who's holding himself out to be an adequate and competent physician, and you discover that that person has never been an intern or a resident in anybody's hospital. And that's what you're looking at. And they're judges, not like this one. She did what she had to do. She just said, no, we're not going to do it. So she could have said that on the front end. Sit on the bench a few more years, and she probably will go that way. So she did fine. But I don't like what I heard from the defense side. He may be something else may be going on. I don't know. But it stank to high heavens.
Yeah. Now, one last question I want to ask you on this. Do you feel sometimes it is important to have Black judges because she was clearly trying to.
It's not a Black judge thing. I've heard. Look.
Okay, so it doesn't matter. Like some judges try to help you out. And
okay.
you're
One of the best judges I ever ran into, and he became a friend. A tall white guy named Terry Lafferty. He was 6'5", and he had been a prosecutor for a long time. He was one of the fairest judges you've ever seen. And he said, oh, no, we're not going there. This is an injustice. My suite mate, a guy named Jim Beasley, he's dead now, died of brain cancer. He used to say, he used to be pretty rough. He said, oh, no, we're not going to do that. He's a white guy. And an old white guy, epitomized the image people have of a badass Southern white guy. Judge William Williams had the nickname Slick Williams, which he got from the way he used to try cases. He'd say, with a frown on it, we're not going to have that today. No way in hell is the court going to allow that. You are coming back, and you will contemplate over the next 2 weeks what the court might do to you, but you're not going to throw your life away and commit another felony against yourself. So, yeah, these things happened. So it's got nothing to do with black, white, brown, red, yellow, but then I can think of some of the worst travesties I've ever seen. Couple of black judges used to commit them all the time because they got appointed to a bench they knew nothing about. So rather than learning what the hell they were up to, they decided to jump everybody to camouflage their own ignorance and ineptitude. So I've seen injustices on both sides.
okay.
And some good doing.
Right.
By the way, one other thing too. See, some of us are committed to this idea of justice, and it becomes a religion. You get all of these Bible-thumping Christians or these jihad-demanding Muslims or people who want to deal with Zionism and all sorts of crazy things in the name of organized religion. Well, there are other people who get secular and have just as great a passion about justice, fairness, equality under the law as they do, as others have about their religious beliefs. So it has nothing to do with what the defendant looks like. And by the way, justice is blind. You can't see them.
All right. Do you have time for one more? Because we haven't spoken about Fani Willis in a minute.
Must we?
Kind of. Um,
I'm waiting for indictments to be returned against her and Wade. And I'm waiting for the slack they're going to cut Wade in return for his testimony to start kicking in, so we can start getting a lot of people locked up for the conspiracy felonies that have apparently been committed.
we haven't spoken about Fani Willis in a minute.
Must we?
Kind of.
I'm waiting for indictments to be returned against her and Wade. And I'm waiting for the slack they're going to cut Wade in return for his testimony to start kicking in, so we can start getting a lot of people locked up for the conspiracy felonies that have apparently been committed. What about the probate court judge in Georgia that just got snatched off the bench last year for incompetence when she started trying to put her little grubbies on the money she saw was there, and then got busted outside of a club for acting a fool to contribute to her woes? And what's that mayor that thinks she's all this, that, and the other? That's is it Illinois that is running through the public treasury?
Tiffany, the mayor Tiffany. Okay, you're talking about the judge out of Douglas County in Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah, and what about
Tiffany Hayard? She was booted out. She was voted out.
Yeah, that too. See, this kind of stuck on stupid or coonskin wig Jasmine Crockett, this kind of stupid stuck on.
It's like a reoccurring theme of a certain type of Black figure in a position of some type of power, but they're acting very ignorant and ghetto in their position.
That.
Okay. All right, let me play this about 4 minutes.
News investigation finds a Fulton County judge raising issues now about a plea deal for a repeat offender. Channel 2 investigative reporter Mark Winnie is live in downtown Atlanta. And Mark, the victim in this situation was visibly upset.
Yeah, we sent documents and a link to a hearing to a former prosecutor to make sure we were getting it right. And he says clearly the judge is concerned and he understands why. But the DA, in an email, is telling her side.
Got DNA, cell phone records, and video footage.
They robbed me, they beat me up, they hit me with the gun, they stole my money, they took all the keys to my cars and stopped my business, for almost, 3 months. And I'm suffering from that. I'm not accepting it, Your Honor.
I'll note that if the district attorney is concerned, the bench here in Fulton County is soft on crime. This offer did not come from the bench.
A plea in front of Judge Scott McAfee in Fulton Superior Court by Robbie Lewis. Charge records indicate with a list of serious crimes. But Judge McAfee seemed to sort of communicate his own plea to understand why Lewis was getting the negotiated plea deal he did.
If the state could just walk me through the basis for the reduction. I mean, I'm familiar with the facts of this case, and I'm familiar with Mr. Lewis's history. I think this is the most serious case I've seen trial division have, maybe in the past year.
They hurt me so bad.
Chakram Moshiri Xavier said by phone he was pistol whipped, beaten, kidnapped, and driven around for about 45 minutes and robbed of $4,000 and the keys to dozens of cars after defendant Robbie Lewis and another man showed up at his Roswell car dealership in July 2024. We got pictures via text. In a negotiated plea for charges including robbery by intimidation, kidnapping, false imprisonment, aggravated assault, and more, Lewis got 10 years to serve in prison, plus 10 years probation, plus 5 years suspended, says former DeKalb DA Robert James, to whom we sent records we obtained and a link to the hearing. But he says because Lewis was a recidivist, a repeat offender, he could have gotten far more if he'd been convicted of armed robbery, which was reduced, and the other charges to which he pled guilty, and had the state not withdrawn its recidivist notice.
If the defendant had been convicted, he would have received a life without parole sentence.
An email from Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis said, in this case, the defendant was sentenced to 25 years to do 10 years. He will serve every day of 10 years in a Georgia penal facility because he pled guilty to kidnapping. It It added, a judge is ultimately always responsible for sentencing. Clearly, Judge Scott McAfee thought the sentence was appropriate because he accepted the sentence and made no amendments as he has the legal authority to do. And it said, this resolution guarantees this defendant is out of our community for a minimum of a decade. If he violates the law in any way in the next 25 years, he will gain more time in custody.
If the offer's been conveyed and we're on the eve of trial, then at this point, probably Mr. Mitchell's relied on it, and we have to hold the state to that offer because the defendant would be prejudiced otherwise.
James says records we sent him showed the DA's office had already cut Lewis a break in another case, helping to get him out of prison early from a long drug sentence. James says he agrees with that move under the circumstances, but disagrees with giving Robbie Lewis even another break now.
The terms of the plea did not require him to say who the other guy was in the robbery, right?
Yeah, they didn't, and that's confounding. Right?
Now, the sentence was dated June 13th, a June 16th document, and other information indicates the state moved to dismiss all pending counts against a co-defendant, citing evidentiary concerns, and the judge granted it. Robbie Lewis's attorney, Kenneth Mitchell, said he respects all parties involved. His heart goes out to the victim, and he advocated the best he could for his client, but he cannot speak to what went into the prosecution's thought process on the plea deal. Reporting live in downtown Atlanta, Mark.
Translation, this is another strike against Fani Willis. Her incompetence is just extraordinary. See, there's supposed to be trust and accountability in the system on the professional side. Willis is an officer of Judge McAfee's court, and he's supposed to be able to rely absolutely upon her representations. She did not have the circumstances of this case, total circumstances conveyed to the court. And that would be grounds for discipline. Judge McAfee, I have met him, talked to him at great length personally. He's young for his position, but he's an exception to the rule. He is zealous about acquiring all the information, knowledge, discernment, and acumen that are necessary to be a good judge. He's going to go far, and I think he needs to wind up on somebody's Supreme Court, or in somebody's governor's seat, or higher. And what is in place right about here is not necessarily in front of the cameras, but sending notice to the DA, counsel for the defendant, and having a meeting in chambers and chewing somebody's ass. And it would lapse into, how dare you send something up here with this kind of concealment of the totality of the circumstances, and having the court rely upon you as an officer of itself and being subjected to this kind of misleading nonsense. What is the matter with you? See, McAfee is a damn fine judge, and Willis is just an incompetent knucklehead sitting up there trying to pull all of the cliche strings to be in the position she's in. And she's also illustrative, allegedly, of some of the bad things today, which is, how do you expect the crooks to be held to the law when the people that are supposed to be in charge of the whole thing don't hold themselves to the law? Now, she's been seen hugging up on, hobnobbing with a certain OG criminal element, allegedly, in the Atlanta area. And I suspect this may have something to do with it, where somebody was being done a favor, because there's no way somebody like this should get away with this kind of situation. This should be going to trial, not that nonsense she wasted so much time on over the last few years of going after the School Teachers Association, a rap group for organized crime, or the President of the United States for organized crime. some absolutely ridiculous cases. This is the kind she should have been spending her time on. This is the kind of thing she's in office to prevent, this kind of endemic, rampant criminality.
Okay.
Let me say one more thing. There's more to this than comes out. This kind of situation, when you get into the background of stuff like that and what's implied by what I just saw, is absolutely revolting. This is the worst of the worst and is indicative of a complete, horrible breakdown in the system. It embodies all of the injustices that even the most zealous critics of the system could possibly bring to bear, because they aren't even obvious to anyone who's not sophisticated and experienced enough to get it. This is absolutely horrible, and it bespeaks the injustice in the system that needs to be wiped out.